Hello, welcome to Getting Started with React with ScriptMonkey. Today we're going to look at getting our workspace set up. So we're going to be downloading an IDE, we're going to be downloading Node and setting that up, which comes with NPM, our package manager. We'll also get Yarn, then we'll get a very simple React app up and running. Before we begin, we need to pick our IDE, and that's basically where we're going to write our code. Any application that can write down text can be used. I've used Notepad++ for many years. It's very simple, very easy to configure. I still use Notepad++ to take notes, to have just a simple text editor that I can copy and paste in and out of. So this is a great resource. Sublime is another option. Atom I've used before, but the one we're going to use is VS Code. So I've started using VS Code probably about a year ago, and I really enjoy it. There's lots of features like autosave, embedded command prompt windows, so you can have a terminal right down at the bottom. We have remote server capability with VS Code and lots of extensions. So there's a strong community supporting VS Code with extensions, and those extensions can be as simple as the look and feel of your environment. It can be linters to correct your code. It can be prettifiers to make your code look better. It can be just syntax colorizers, right? So it can parse through your syntax and colorize any keywords. So lots of great features with VS Code. So go ahead and download VS Code. Use the link in the description below and install it, just a standard install, and then we can get started. All right, here we are in Visual Studio Code, just a blank setup in a new project. Over on the left, we have Explorer, where we can see all of our files. We can search through those files. We have Git, so maybe we can explore Git together. I haven't used that much yet. There's Debug. There is all the extensions, and then there is Remote Explorer that I can use to log into remote servers. As far as extensions go, they recommend quite a few. Whenever it knows what kind of files you're working with, they'll start recommending different extensions to get. And so you can see some of the ones I use: Beautify, C#, Dart, ESLint, Flutter, FTP, GraphQL. Night Owl is the theme I use. So if you like the theme, once we get into the code, prettier. So whenever you save, it reformats your text. Remote SSH, remote WSL, FTP, and then yarn commands for VS Code and styled components. So when we get into using styled components with React, we'll need that syntax highlighting there. Down at the bottom here is our terminal, and then debug console output and problems. I typically stay in terminal, but I'll usually have one or more terminals open at a time, and I can switch back and forth through this drop down. So if I open a second terminal, now I have terminal 1, terminal 2. So next we need to download node.js, and again the link is down in the description. So we'll download that, the latest version, latest stable version, and with that comes npm, which is a package manager, and this will allow us to download packages as well as execute commands like the one we'll execute later is create React app. And finally, once we have Node and npm installed, I also want to install Yarn. I really enjoy working with Yarn, and we'll see that as well. Here is the nodejs.org website. So to download it, just click on Download for Windows. If you're using a Windows machine, go ahead and choose the LTS, the long-term support version. Once you have Node installed, you can test the version. Make sure you have it installed correctly by doing node-v, and it'll give you a version down here. You can do the same thing with npm -v, and it'll give you a version as well. So I'm running a little bit later than LTS 13.1, and then for npm I have 6.12.1. Anything greater than 8.10 should work for Node if you have 8.10 or later, and then for npm you want at least 5.6 or higher. In order to get the latest npm, what you can do is type in npm install .g for global npm at latest. And that's going to go ahead and install the latest npm for us. All right, so you can see it upgraded me from 6.12.1 to 6.14.8. Now the next thing I want to do is install yarn. So for yarn, I can do npm install -g yarn. And again, I can check the yarn version by doing yarn-v. All right, so now that we have node, npm, yarn, we're working in Visual Studio Code, what I want to do is go ahead and create React app using npx. So npx comes with npm. It's just a way for us to run commands within the package manager. So create -react -app is the command, and then we need to give our project a name. And so for this, I will say YouTube tut for now. That'll be our first little project here. What it's going to do is create a folder with several files in it, and we'll take a look at all those. All right, and so now you can see what you should type in to get started is cd and then the name of your project, yt-tut, and then yarn start. All right, and so now here on this screen, we can see our React app is running. This is the default Create React App screen. All right, what I'm going to do now is go ahead and stop the React app from running, and I'm going to update my Yarn version. I haven't done this before, so this is new. We'll see if everything works out. So I'm going to go ahead and say I have, checking my version of Yarn, I have, let's see, version 1.21.1, and I want to go to Berry, which is the code name for Yarn 2. So if I type in, since it's 121, I need to type in yarn policies set version Berry. And so what this should do is upgrade me to version 2. And it's only for this project. So I'll need to do this for every project we start. We would need to do this command. All right, so it downloaded it. And then I need to go ahead and say yarn set version latest. And now if I type yarn -v, you can see I'm at 2.2.0 now. All right, so let's go ahead and do a yarn start again. So after running the yarn upgrade, I upgraded to Berry, which is yarn 2. I had to run the command yarn install, which you're seeing now. And that took quite a while, but once it was finished, it was able to start yarn again. So whenever I was at yarn version 1.21, I went to upgrade to yarn 2. That broke some dependencies and different, I guess I had an invalid resolution is the problem. And so running yarn install, yarn space install, fixed my issues. And so now I'm able to run my app again. So from here, we have just a starting Create React app. So what we're going to do next is kind of clean it out and go back to the bare minimum of what we need to get started. So one of the really nice things about Create React app is it easily gets up and going. We have testing already built for us when we need that. We have real-time updates. So as we make changes to our code, the app is going to reflect those changes. So what I'm going to do is come into source and just start deleting several things that we don't need. So source and public. So for now, Fave icon, we don't need that. Logos, we can get rid of. Manifest, robots, and we'll be adding these things back in later. But for now, let's just simplify a little bit. So on index, all we really need is root here. We can take out all this comment. We'll delete the React or the manifest. We can delete the Apple Touch stuff. And then let's see. Yeah, we can drop all of this for now. And we'll come back and add it all in later as we need it. And so description, this is a, let's see, in title. So this will just be a YouTube tutorial. And then simple website created using React app. Great. And then down here, what we can do is we're going to get rid of the app.css. We'll get rid of the test, index.css, logo, service worker, and setup test. And so now we just have index.js. For index.js, we can remove all of this stuff. Oh, let's not remove the import app. We still want that guy. We don't really need that or this. So now we've just got app coming in here, and I want to change, and let's get rid of the service worker. All right, so now we just have the React DOM rendering our app to the element root. And so if you look back up at index.html, this is the root element. So it has an ID of root. And so what index.js, his job is to just put our app into root. So anything we put in app is going to display in root. Right now, if we look back at our website, it's broken, failed to compile. All right, we're not finished deleting yet. So now if we go into app, we deleted the logo, we deleted CSS, and we just have the app here. I'm going to delete all of this and this. I'm going to delete the export, and I'm going to export this in a slightly different way. So we're going to use functional programming, and so I'm going to say export const app. It's going to be equal to, and I'll just put div howdy. All right, and then back in our index.js, I need to change this slightly. So before we were exporting the default app, but I changed it so that I'm exporting a functional program here using an arrow function. And so here in index.js, what I need to do is I need to wrap this in curly braces. So now from the ./app file, which is app.js over here, I'm importing a named function app, and then I'm putting out app onto our document root. And so if you've followed along, what you should now have on the screen is howdy, because Yarn never stopped work, or we never stopped hosting our React app on port 3000. That's the default. But you should have howdy up and going, but we skipped over a lot of stuff. So let's go back and take a look at what's going on here. So I wanted to clean it out and make it bare bones just so that it's easier to understand. And so if we walk through this, what we see is This is just standard HTML here, right? So it's index.html. It's your default location for HTML to be rendered. And you have your head tag here. And in the head tag, you have title, description, all the meta. And so we'll be adding more meta as we go. But just for a simple example, the ones we're concerned about right now are the title and description, and then this is the character set. So then in the body, all we have is a no script warning. Basically, if somebody browsing to your site does not have JavaScript, this will come up and say you need to enable JavaScript to run this app. And then we have a single div with an ID of root. And so that's where we're injecting our code basically. So if I go to index.js, I'm getting that element called root. The ID's name is root. And I'm injecting anything that's in this app. And so this right here, this is JSX. And so it's kind of a cross between, well, it's kind of like HTML inside of JavaScript, right? So I've imported app here, and then I can use app in my code down here as long as that's a React element. I can wrap it in a self-closing tag like this. Some of the other things we have coming in here: import React from React. So anytime we're using React, we need this import, and then this is import React DOM from React DOM. And so these are two modules that we have that Create React App made for us and added. And so React.dom.render, its job is to inject the React component into our HTML. And then down here in app.js is our app. And so the only thing I have going here is I imported React from React, but then I've exported a function. It's an arrow function. And if you're not familiar with some of this JavaScript, I do recommend going, and maybe we'll get into that later on, just understanding JavaScript. For now, we'll focus on the React portion of this. But in order to understand React, you do want a knowledgeable base of JavaScript. So this makes a little bit more sense. So I have a function. Its job, since it's an arrow function, it's returning this right here. I don't have to call out return because by default, an arrow function returns whatever comes after the arrow. So it's taking nothing in. This is the inputs. This is the output. Of course, I can restructure this, and I can say, make it a legitimate code block with the curly brackets, but then I need to also say return, and I can return that. So this is the same thing as before, just less typing, right? It's implicit. I don't have to worry about typing return if I'm not doing anything else. Now, if I'm doing other things like running functions inside here, or doing any kind of calculations, or using state or use effects or anything like that, then I'll need to put code block in there and have a return and that kind of stuff. But for here, we're just printing out a single div, very easy, straightforward. All right, so that wraps up this video. We were able to install VS Code, install Node with npm and npx. We installed Yarn. We upgraded Yarn, ran into some difficulty there, but we're able to fix it with Yarn install. Then finally, we ran a Yarn start that kicked off our basic default Create React App screen. After that, we then were able to delete and simplify a lot of our React app. And so we got it down to just the bare bones. So now we can start building it back up and make something that we want. Now that we kind of understand and see some of the different parts. And as we go, we'll learn more and take a look at some of these other parts and pieces as we add them back in. Next time, we're actually going to do, this is kind of the simple hello world of React. The next is the typical. We'll make a React app that increases a state variable when you click a button. So the classic kind of first React program is what we'll make next time. All right, this is Script Monkey logging off. We'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.